Hi everyone. I hope you're doing well. Today's video, I just wanted to chat about my experience with getting my driver's license and what that journey looked like. So essentially, I attempted 5 times and I passed on the fifth time, which means I failed 4 times. So my journey started like quite a while ago. I'm currently 26. I got my license just before I turned 26. Um, I got my license in January. Yeah, the experience was really nerve-wracking in the beginning. It took a lot of time to build confidence. I was a very anxious driver in the beginning. I struggled with like just basic driving on the road. Every time I would get into the car, I would feel really anxious. My anxiety would basically control me, and I'd let my emotions sort of lead the way, and I felt like I wasn't in control. So the first time I attempted to pass, I was not prepared. I had not even been in the yard practicing the parkings and the 3-point turn and the parallel parking. I had just done it a few times, so I was not very familiar with it. I was unaware of how unprepared I was at the time. Um, yeah, so that added to the anxiety of feeling like things were very rushed. The reason why it was so rushed was that I had written my learner's test and the expiration date on my learner's document, like the learner's document that the government gives you, it was basically going to be expired soon. So I was kind of rushing to just make sure that I get it in time, that I'm able to pass out in time, but I wasn't ready. So I ended up failing. I literally didn't even make it through the yard. I went up the hill and I rolled down. Worst case scenario of what could have happened, and it happened. Also on that day, it just happened to be raining, and I had never practiced in the rain before. So after that, I took a break from driving for a bit. I was not looking forward to it. I finished university, and then after university, when I got in my first job, I decided, okay, I have some money. Let me try and get lessons and let me try and go for it again. So I decided to take my second attempt at it. I had been practicing with a driving instructor. He was very nice. Um, yeah, he was very nice, and I enjoyed the lessons we had together because I was starting to get more confident. So on that, but then what had happened was I moved from one area to another, and my test date had approached, and the driving instructor that I had been taking lessons with wasn't available on the day of the test. So they switched driving instructors last minute, and I was stuck with a different driving instructor on the day of my test. And I was not used to him. He was not used to me. I have like a very specific type of energy that's needed in order to get through things. So I feel like he wasn't emotionally ready to cope with me, and I wasn't emotionally ready to work with him. And we didn't gel well together. I did do a bit better this time. I made it through I made it through the I made it through the yard. No, I didn't finish. I didn't exit the yard. I made it over the incline. I made it past the 3-point turn, and I was doing my parallel parking. Then I did the one side. Then they told me to go through to the alley docking. And then in the alley docking, I made a mistake and I knocked the pole. I had 2 attempts, but I only ended up using the one. And then I made that mistake and I was unable to complete because the the person taking me for the test on the day said that you made this mistake. Um, unfortunately you failed, and also you didn't do your observations correctly. So you lose points every time you don't do the observations. So that's what I was told. Then after that, I obviously cried. I was very sad about it. I had been working towards this and I really felt like I was a failure because I'd worked so hard to get to that point and then I failed again. But I didn't give up. I went back to lessons again. I was now in a new location. They appointed me a new driving instructor. I asked for someone that's a bit more patient because I specifically requested that from my driving school. I was using the he and she driving school because they have access to their own yard in Pato. So I used this driving school, and then I found out about this place called Omega Driving School. So they have access to your yard, and if you want to go and practice in the yard, you pay 30 Rand for 30 minutes and then 50 Rand for an hour. So after that, I was going with for lessons, but then I was going for lessons, but then I would also, while I would have lessons, I'd ask, can we just go to the yard? Then you'd pay a fee, and then it was closer to home so that I wouldn't have to go all the way to Pato to go to use their yard. Instead, I would just drive with the instructor that to that point and practice there. And it was closer, and I'd get more practice in the area where I'm testing. So then I tested. The driving test day came. I was very anxious though. The day before the test, I was anxious. The day on the test, I was anxious. I did not make it out. I didn't make it far at all. I went up the incline and I rolled again. So I felt so frustrated because I worked so hard to get so far and then I just went backwards again. That's what it felt like. And I was like so frustrated with myself because I was like, I can do this. I can do this. It's just like I wasn't feeling confident in myself. I was not feeling confident in myself, and then that's why I ended up failing. Um, so I took a minute. I made sure that I booked again. I booked again and then I eventually got a test date. I went to go and try and pass out again. This time I made it out of the yard. This was the third attempt. No, that was the fourth attempt. That was the fourth attempt. I made it out of the yard for the first time in my life, and I was so excited about it. I was so emotional because I didn't pass. I failed, but I wasn't as emotional as I was the previous times because, in my eyes, even though I failed, it was still moving forward. So at this point, I was really excited because I knew that I could get out of the yard. I could get onto the road. I could do this. I just needed to believe in me. And the confidence that I built up it was the fourth instructor I was with. This instructor, when we were going through the practice rounds, he made me say, like, when I did my parking, I can do this. I've got this. I believe in myself. Like, if I got the parking, I say, I got the parking, so that there's no doubt in your mind that you can do it. Because if you believe you can do it, then you can do it. But it's all like a mindset thing. It's a mind game you're playing. So then yeah, I made it out of the yard. I spoke to the instructor and he said, yeah, you just need to book again and you go and you test out again and you're going to pass because you did the yard perfectly. You didn't have any mistakes. And if I made a mistake, I made a mistake with my parallel parking, but I had a second attempt. So then I just took my second attempt and I was able to fix things. And I got out of the yard. I made it onto the road, but I made a boo-boo at the intersection. Oh, it's not the end of the world. I could go again. So I went again. I booked again. Then a terrible thing happened. On the day that I booked the test, the car that I was meant to go with had an issue. So I had to forfeit that test. So I didn't even get to try that day. So I didn't fail. I just had to forfeit. And then I booked again. So this was now my fifth attempt. On my fifth attempt, I finally passed. I had the confidence when I started that day. I told myself, today I am going to look at this as an opportunity to go onto the road and attempt to pass my drivers. I'm not nervous. I didn't use the word nervous that day. I said this is an opportunity. The day prior to that, I had written down a numerous amount of times that I am going to pass. I am passing. This is going to come to pass. I prayed about it. I put all the negative thoughts of failing out of my mind and I just focused on envisioning myself passing. Also, to note, for my nerves, I went to the chemist and I spoke to them about what I have been experiencing with the anxiety. And I asked them, is there anything I can take? So I took an all natural calmative. So I was using a calmative on the days when I attempted the last two attempts. So the attempt when I made it out of the yard for the first time, and then on the day that I passed, I also used the calmative. But I think it was more than just the cognitive because the cognitive was not strong at all. It was more of a mindset thing. Because I think from failing all those times, I was able to build up a lot of confidence as well. Because I got out into the road, I did the scary things, I did the scary things again and again and again. I failed, I learned from it, I failed, I learned from it. I did it again and again and again. So I was continuously doing the scary things to get myself to a point where it wasn't so scary anymore and I knew what to do. So then after that, I went, yeah, like as I said, I passed that day. So I went through the yard. I managed to do the yard way faster than I had done it previously because I had been practicing with the driving instructor. And then during my own time, I went with a family member who would help me practice in the yard. So I'd drive to a point and then I'd pay the fee to have access to the yard. Then I'd practice my parallel parking, I practice my 3-point turn, and I practice my alley docking. So I was in a good place with that. Um, and then when I got into the road, it was a good day. It was supposed to rain that day, but it didn't end up raining. And also, I had practiced in the rain a few times now. Yeah, so I made it through and I passed. I passed. I was in shock when I found out I passed. My driving instructor was like standing outside of the door while I was waiting for the lady to give him my form. And he was like, and I was like, and then he was like, and I was like, because I just realized I did pass, and that's great. So then she gave me my document, and then she said, "Congratulations, you passed." And I was very, very much in shock. I don't think my brain was fully comprehending and processing what had happened. So yeah, and I went through, they give you like a temporary driver's license document. And then that's what you use until you get your formal card. It takes about 6 to 8 weeks to get your card. Sometimes I hear that it takes longer, but it depends on which department you go to and what time of year and all these different factors. So let's chat about some of the costs involved with getting your driver's license. So it is not cheap. It is actually quite expensive. Every time you go and you book an appointment, you have to pay 135 Rand just to book a test date. You're getting your learners If you're writing your learners, you pay a fee to write your learners. I forgot what the fee is for that, but for the driver's test date booking, it's 135 Rand every time. So each time you fail, you have to go and book again. Then they do the eye test again, and then you book your date again. So for a driving test car, to use the car on the day, you pay anywhere from 550 to 600 Rand for the usage of a car with an instructor on the day. For about 5 driving lessons, okay, six, I think it's about 6 driving lessons. It's about 1,200 for 6 lessons. Each lesson's about an hour long. Or you pay for an individual lesson, you're going to pay like 200 to 220 Rand for a single lesson. Yeah. And usually with the lessons, they do pick you up and they drop you off at your residence. So they'll ask you where you're staying and then they'll pick you up and drop you off again. So that is nice. You do get a lot of practice in that way. But when you go, try and try and have some experience practicing already if you can and you do have an access to a car to practice, because it's good to know how to do the basic driving before you go, because it's not enough time to cover everything if you're only booking like 5 lessons. If you're booking 10 lessons, it's about around the 2,000 mark and up. Yeah. So that is for a manual car. For an automatic car, it's slightly more expensive. I'm not sure why, but yeah, I did manual, so if you want to find out about automatic, you have to check. The driving schools I used was Yi and then SNK driving school. Those were the 2 driving schools that I used. They both are very good driving schools. The only issue I had was availability during specific periods of time. That was the only issues that I had. The very first driving school, that was so long ago that I can't even remember who the instructor was, and I probably wouldn't recommend them anyway. Um, yeah. What else? Yeah, if you get your learners, don't wait to the last minute to go and try and boss out. Don't wait to the last minute to start practicing driving either. Because that, like, booking for the last minute is the most stressful thing. Don't do it. I did it. It was so stressful. I wouldn't recommend it. Yeah. And remember, like, if you fail, that it's not the end of the world. It might feel like the end of your world in that moment, and you might feel like a failure and you might feel like giving up. But like, even though I felt all of that, I watched videos online, I took advice from people who had been in the same situation that I had, and I kept going. I didn't give up. I made sure that I had open communication with my instructor. I communicated what I needed from them and how they could help me, and together we were able to get to a point where I could pass. And I know that you can do it too. If you're trying, I know you can do it too. Just believe in yourself, believe in your ability, believe that you put the time and effort in to get to that point, and don't give up. Don't give up. You can do it. I believe in you. You need to believe in yourself. Okay, good luck. Um, yeah. And I don't know what you believe in, but prayer definitely helped me. Knowing that I'm putting it in God's hands and not leaving it my own, that helped me get through this time. Because sometimes your emotions are so overwhelming, your anxiety is so overwhelming that you can't be in control in that situation. And that's where it's out of your hands. You've done all you can do, you put in all the work that you can do. Now it's out of your hands. Okay. And what else I want to chat about? I spoke about my experience, my passing, my failing. Even with my learner's test, I didn't pass on the first time. I passed on like the second time for the first time I had it. Then it expired. I had to go and rebook. I failed again. I passed in the second time again. So it was every time it was going more than once. So it's like you're gonna fail at things in life. Oh yeah. If you fail, don't look at it as a failure. Look at it as redirection. God's putting you off for a moment. Like God's putting a pin in this right now. That's for a reason. Maybe you're not ready to be on the road. Maybe you needed a bit more practice, and that meant you needed to go for a few more lessons, or you had to practice with the car a few more times before you could get that pass. And you would rather be safe on the road and not be in an accident than be passed. You get your pass, you're on the road, but you're not ready to be on the road because that's gonna fill you with more anxiety. Like you're in a situation and you don't know what to do, and there's no one there to help you, and you're not even a learner anymore, you're a driver. So maybe that's what happened in that moment, and maybe that's why you failed. Like there's so many different factors to consider. But another thing is once you get your license, make sure you get some practice in and don't leave it for too long because you can start getting out of the flow of things simply because you are a new driver, and try and get some one-on-one with the car. I'm still working towards that. Yeah, but then outside of those things, yeah, good luck. And hopefully this video has helped you in some way. Yeah, my experience with driving has been more than 5 years trying to get my license. And honestly, it's not the end of the world. Everybody does things at their own pace in life. And just because you didn't get your license when you were a teenager or in your 20s or maybe even your 30s or your 40s, I was at the traffic department and I met people who attempted 11 times. Like the girl failed 11 times, and it's not the end of the world because you can go as many times as you want to. I think the top amount of times that someone failed was like 145. So if you fail 10 times, it's not the end of the world. But yeah, hopefully you do pass and you do obtain this form of independence. That would be really great. And yeah, I'm wishing you all the best. Thank you for listening to the video. Take care of yourself and keep well. Okay, bye.